What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing our Week 17 preview for the 2020 NFL season. Week 17, we're finally at the end of the season. I say finally, but this season really has gone by super fast, at least for me. It feels like I'm making these videos so often. And I hope you guys have been enjoying these videos. They've actually been pretty fun to make, and I'm excited to help me keep a schedule with my week. It's been pretty fun to keep this up, and I'm actually really excited. I'm going to be making, surprisingly a lot more content in the off season than I am in the regular season. Just feel like there's more potential there. So I hope you guys will enjoy the content that I'm going to be making soon. I'm really looking forward to it. But anyways, so this week is a very important week. There's a lot of playoff spots that still need to be decided. There's even, 2 divisions that need to be won. So that's going to be very interesting to look forward to this week. So we're going to be predicting those games. And then the other thing is that there are a couple games that really don't have that much stakes to them. And so I'm going to kind of gloss over those pretty quickly. So I could go a little more in depth with the ones that matter more. The ones that are like, make or break for certain teams. So hope you guys understand that. So if your favorite team is one that I gloss over, I'm sorry, but that's just got to get through it because I do want to talk a little bit about certain teams. So let's just get straight into it. Alright, so the first game we got here is between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. So this one in particular should be, first of all, a really good game. But it has big implications for Miami, who have not clinched playoffs yet, but they're really close to. So they need to either win or have the Colts, Ravens, or Browns lose their games. And I think at least one of those is going to happen. In my opinion, it's going to be the Browns. Obviously, we'll get into that game later. But Miami's really going to want this. And honestly, I don't really see Buffalo playing all their starters. I think maybe Josh Allen will sit out. Who knows? I could be totally wrong. Maybe they want to just lock up the 2 seed, but if they don't, then I see Miami definitely winning this. And I think there's a chance that they could win it anyway. So my pick here is going to be Miami, and I think they're going to lock up a playoff berth, which I definitely think they've deserved because they've been a really, they've been a team that not a lot of people thought were going to go places this year, but they've been really good. So I think they deserve it, and I think that they will win this game. But that is pretty much assuming that the Bills will sit some players, to rehab for playoffs. So the next game is the Ravens and the Bengals. This one, I believe the Ravens just need to win this to get in here. Yeah, so the Ravens need to win, or they need the Browns or the Colts to lose to make it into playoffs. And I think they are just going to win this game here. The Bengals have had a few upset wins this year, but I don't think that they're going to, do much more. I don't think they're going to knock the Ravens out of playoffs, although it would be pretty funny to see. I do think the Ravens are going to win this one and make it into playoffs barely. I really thought that they were going to miss them this year. But here we are. 2020, they were able to come back. I blame it on 2020, even though now it's 2021. But still, this crazy year, the teams that looked like they weren't going to make playoffs just managed to sneak back into the hunt, like the Bears, which we'll get into later. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, I think the Ravens are going to beat the Bengals here. This next game is one that I obviously have an invested interest in. It's the Steelers and the Browns. So the Steelers are going to be resting a number of players, including Ben Roethlisberger, T.J. Watt. I believe Marquise Pouncey is going to sit out. Cameron Hayward, a couple other guys. Basically, just the veterans and the star players are going to sit out because we need the rest for playoffs for sure. We've been on a hell stretch. We still haven't really had a bye week, so this is going to be a bye week for those guys that need it, which is nice. However, hear me out, all right? The Browns have some players that are going on the COVID list, like Denzel Ward and some other guys. Who's to say that they don't, hold up against the Steelers? And it's not like it's all backups for the Steelers. There are some starters playing. I believe our receiving core is going to remain untouched, and our secondary as well. But, I think Mason Rudolph has a chance here. I don't think he's going to throw 4 interceptions like he did last year. It's going to be interesting to see how the whole Myles Garrett thing turns out. But I do think that the Steelers are going to win this game, and it's a pretty meaningless game for us. The Browns need to win to make it into playoffs. But I think that they're gonna choke a little bit. Maybe I'll be wrong and they'll beat us, which obviously I wouldn't really care too much about because it's just not an important game to us. But the thing is, though, if we lost, I believe that if they got the 7th seed, which they might, we would play them back-to-back weeks, which is kind of interesting. But I don't think that we will play them back-to-back weeks. I just don't think that the Browns are going to beat us and make playoffs here. I just really don't. They're just not. I don't know. The Browns are a great team. But even with some of our starters subbed out, I don't think their run game is going to work against our defense. And Baker showed the last time we played them that he cannot pass against our defense either. So, even with some key players sitting out and or injured, I still think that the Steelers are going to win here. So the next game is between the Vikings and the Lions. This one really doesn't have any implications. I'm pretty sure the Vikings are eliminated from contention. So I believe they're like 7-8 right now. I do have the Vikings winning this one. It's not really that big of a surprise if they won. Again, there's not really implications in this one. So simply put, I just have the Vikings winning. So the next game is between the Jets and the Patriots. Another pretty meaningless one. It's basically the result of this game is either the Patriots have a more respectable record if they win, or the Jets are ruining their draft selection spot even more if they win the third straight game. But in the end, I do think the Patriots are going to win. I don't think that, especially because it's in Foxborough, I don't really see the Jets winning there. But, they did beat the Rams on the road, so we'll have to see. But I do have the Patriots winning this game. So the next one is between the Cowboys and the Giants. And so this is one that actually does have some major implications because, either team has a chance to win the division here. I believe Dallas is 6-9 and the Giants are 5-10. So, if the Giants won, then both teams would end up 6-10, and I believe that the Giants would make playoffs. And so, yeah, if I'm correct, then the Giants would have to win here, and Washington would have to lose against the Eagles later on, which is a game we'll talk about, for them to make playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that the Giants are going to be able to be capable of beating the Cowboys here because the Cowboys looked so good against the Eagles last week. Andy Dalton was on fire. I think it's going to happen again this week. I think he's going to mow through the Giants. But I do not think the Cowboys are going to win the division, and I will get into that with the last game of the week. But moving on, we have the Atlanta versus Tampa Bay game. This one, it's low stakes. Tampa just wants to win to have a better record. Will they? I think so. Even though the Falcons kind of took it to the Chiefs, I believe it was last week, in a little bit of a shocking game. I just don't think that they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna. Remain that good and stay good against the Buccaneers. I just don't think it's gonna happen. And I think Tampa wants that higher seeding, so I think that they're gonna probably not rest all their starters, maybe some, but I think they're gonna play most of their starters, and that they're gonna beat the Falcons here. So the next game is between the Packers and the Bears. This one has some implications. The Bears kind of need to win this, or they need, I believe it is the Rams to lose to make playoffs, and I think that, or maybe it's the Cardinals. I'll have to check. So even if the Bears lose this game, if the Cardinals lose, then they will make it into playoffs, which is kind of interesting. They can just straight lose this division game, but they can still make playoffs if another team loses, which is kind of interesting. However, I will say I think Green Bay wants to lock up this number one seed. They won't really want the bye. I think they're not going to rest any starters, and I think they're going to beat the Bears here. Even though it's in Chicago, I still don't think that's going to make too much of a difference. However, I just, the other game could potentially go in their favor. The Cardinals could lose. I don't think that's going to happen, and I'll get into that in just a sec, but I don't think that the Bears are going to beat the Packers here. I think they're going to barely miss out of playoffs. It was a really respectable second half of the season for them because the beginning they were 5-1, and then they just kind of sucked towards the middle, and then now they're just on this tear at the end of the season. If they manage to beat the Packers here, I'll be very surprised because it could jeopardize the Packers' number one seed, and it could get them into playoffs. It would be pretty crazy. But I do have the Packers winning this game here. So the next game is between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos. This one has literally zero stakes to it. But I do think the Raiders are going to win and go 8-8. It's better than having a losing season. In the end, I think that, they need to evaluate some things, in terms of I think the play calling, and I think just the defensive scheme. I know they fired their defensive coordinator, and they're going to need a new guy for that position. They need someone really good to fix that, all right? Because it's just been terrible lately. I think if they were able to bolster their defense up a little bit in the offseason, they could be a really good team next year. We're just going to have to see how that turns out, but I do think they're going to beat the Broncos here. This next game is between the Jaguars and the Colts, and although the Jaguars did beat the Colts in Week 1, I don't think they're going to beat them again here. It's kind of a miracle win. The rest of their season didn't turn out anything like that game. But, the Colts need this win to make playoffs, and the Jaguars, they already clinched the number one pick in the draft. What's the point of winning another game? I know the players want to win more than the fans would want them to in this situation. But, I still think the Colts are going to win. They're just a better team all around. So I do have the Colts winning this one, and I do think they're going to make playoffs. This next game is between the Chargers and the Chiefs. There's another one with, little no consequence. The Chiefs are confirmed to they're going to sit Mahomes and likely a couple other guys, probably Kelsey as well. This one I still think that the Chiefs will be a solid team without all those starters, but I don't think that their backup, who I believe is Chad Henne, will be able to carry them to a win here. I think the Chargers are actually going to win this game, which, on paper will look pretty crazy because they beat the Chiefs, but, in the end it was just against, not all their starters. So I do have the Chargers winning this game here. So the next game is between the Arizona Cardinals and the LA Rams. This one is particularly interesting is because both starting quarterbacks injured themselves in the last week. Jared Goff broke his thumb, and Kyler Murray suffered some sort of leg injury. However, Kyler Murray got cleared to compete, so he's going to be playing in this game. But the Rams still haven't clinched playoffs, so their playoff hopes ride on the shoulders of John Wolford, who has never thrown a pass in the NFL, which is kind of crazy. So, it's an extension of 2020. So what can you really expect? So I do have the Cardinals winning here because they have their starting quarterback. I think that's going to be the difference maker. The Rams defense is still good. However, just having Kyler Murray is going to be the advantage that they need, and I think that the Cardinals are going to win here. So that, by extension, would knock the Bears out of playoff contention as well. So I think that the Cardinals are going to get this spot here. And so the next game here is between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. I believe the Seahawks are going to play their guys because they still have a small chance to clutch the number 1 seed for the NFC. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think they're going to win this game. I believe the Saints and the Packers both have to lose for them to get the number 1. I don't think either of those are going to happen, but I do think that they will beat the 49ers here. The Niners aren't the best team. They've already been eliminated for a little while, so I do think that the Seahawks are going to win this game. This next game is between the Saints and the Panthers. The Saints, I think, are going to win this one. The Panthers are all right. They're just nothing too special. The Saints really want that number 1 seed. In the off chance that the Bears beat the Packers, I believe if the Saints win this game that they will clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC, give them the bye, which I think they need because Lord knows they don't need to play another playoff game with the potential to have another shocking, heartbreaking loss in the playoffs. That's kind of been the Saints' trademark the past couple years, is losing in dramatic fashion in the playoffs. I hope it doesn't happen to them again. But I do think the Saints are going to beat the Panthers here. This next game is between the Titans and the Texans. This one, Derrick Henry is close to 2,000 rushing yards. He's pretty far away from it. You'd have to have over 200 yards in this game. I don't think he's going to get it. I think he's going to fall short. Sadly, I do wish that he would get it. I just think it's kind of unrealistic for him to rush for that many yards. Although, I would love to be proven wrong here. And I do think the Titans are just going to win in general. They still need to clinch the division and playoffs with a win, I believe, would do it. It's kind of crazy that they're leading their division into Week 17 and they still haven't clinched playoffs or the division yet. It's kind of crazy. But I do have the Titans winning this one in general. And so now for the final game of the 2020 regular season, we have the Washington football team against the Philadelphia Eagles. And so the Eagles are already eliminated from playoff contention. It is just down to Washington here. If Washington wins, they win the division. And I think they're going to, Jalen Hurts is good, but I think the Washington football team with Alex Smith is actually a really good team. And again, I think I said this in another one of these videos. If the football team had started Alex Smith to start the year, could have had a way better record. The whole injury recently thing, maybe wouldn't have been prevented, but I think that it would have gone a lot more smoothly, and I don't think they would be 7-9 going into playoffs, but I think that's what they're going to be. I think they're going to win the division, take that playoff spot, and so I think that's how the last game of the season is going to end. So if you guys enjoyed this video, here we are at the end of the regular season, and I will see you guys next week for the wild card predictions. Should be pretty interesting. I'm really excited to see how these playoff spots line up. So if you guys have enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like if you haven't already and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.